Welcome back to more ReZero. We are about to start the fifth loop of the fourth arc. Subaru just died by handkerchief to the neck. So let's go ahead and look over the death totals real quick. Alright, I've tried to relabel some of the loops here just to make it a little more clear on what was happening, just so it's easier to tell what was going on in the loops. I'm still working on it though, so the first couple of loops there, I just kind of, all of the loops are more uh, focused on what killed Subaru or what eventually led him to die, basically. And I may end up renaming the first couple of loops there just to make it more clear. I just couldn't come up with something at the moment. For this loop, or for the last loop, he woke up. Like most of the information and everything that happened pretty much was within the dream or the tea party. So not a whole lot actually happened outside of that. Like he woke up and then the witch eventually was already attacking. So he died, I don't know, probably less than an hour later. It's not even enough for me to call it a day. So I'm counting this as a 0 day loop. But let's get into the story. Subaru wakes back up on the floor. After getting his bearings, he finds Amelia still undergoing the trial. He starts to reach for her, but he hesitates. With the memory of the last death still fresh on his mind, the sight of Amelia makes his whole body shake. In the novels, we get some theories on Amelia being possessed by envy. And again, I'm waiting on that, so we'll talk about that later. He calms himself down enough to wake her up. Before she can freak out, she sees Subaru. Why do you look like you're in so much pain? Subaru can't hold it in any longer, and he starts to cry. It's alright. It's alright, Subaru. I'm right here, see? I'm right here. We get a switch up for this loop. So Amelia is the one doing the comforting instead of Subaru. And this seems to help Amelia out from a mental health perspective anyway. She wants to help people. Like that's just her personality. So her helping someone else is getting her mind off of the fact that she just failed the trial. Subaru has a valid concern in the novels, and I think it explains this scene a little bit better. So he is able to return by death because of envy. If she is able to send him to the past, there's really no saying that she can't do it herself. And if she is possessing Amelia, then it's possible that she goes back into the past and possesses her again. So him freaking out about waking her up isn't just about what happened in the last loop. He is worried that when he wakes her up, it won't be Amelia. He's super freaking out, but he calms himself enough to do it. And when she wakes up and is just normal, all of that stress and all of that worry goes away all at once, and he starts to cry. You were supposed to help Amelia, but you only caused trouble for her. Why are you even alive? But you're always the one helping me, so a part of me is relieved that you let me see this weaker side of you. I'd rather not let you see that side of me, though. I only want you to see the part of me that's trying to look good. I want you to forget that I'm actually a weak, helpless loser. Hey, I'm not gonna hate you just because you showed me a moment of weakness. This part of the conversation actually happens inside the graveyard in the web novel. They say pretty much the same thing just before they go outside. Except that Subaru pushes the trial a lot more. Like he keeps asking if she passed even though he already knows the answer. And it's 100% to make her feel bad so that she relies on him more. And it's completely out of character. Okay, well, mostly out of character. Out of character for this moment. Ha, that pride isn't very convincing after you just bawled your eyes out. Do you have to rain on my parade every single time? Now, Miss Ram's demeanor belies her concern. When she had no idea what was occurring inside, Miss Ram was particularly worried out of her. Ram glares at him with an intense anger, causing him to scream. Ram's attitude, like her coldness and sarcasm, that's not in the web novel during this part. She actually says that Subaru did a good job making sure that Amelia got back safe, and it is very weird. Bring me back my tsundere. The only party member left, Garfield, stares at Subaru for a few seconds before adding his thoughts. Yeah, I wasn't sure what was going to happen there for a minute, but I'm glad you made it back all right. I guess a little breeze won't knock the Gafgalum fruit off the tree, and that ain't nothing to sneeze at. They go through their normal group meeting, and as Subaru says, this is probably the best start that he's had. Amelia's doing okay, Garfield is neutral to him, so he's doing pretty well, even though it's only been like an hour. We can go over Garfield's mood real quick. It's still early, but his initial reaction is pretty good. I wouldn't say he's on Subaru's side like the first loop, but he's not hostile. My guess is that it goes back to what I said in the last loop. He's protective of Sanctuary. Subaru showing himself as weak makes him look less like a threat. So Garfield is still okay just sitting back and waiting to see what happens. There is a line from Subaru that I think shows his current mentality. Now I just need to work out what I can test and what I can bring back. I have to make use of this the best that I can. To me, it sounds like he is already giving up on this loop, and it's a bad mentality, in my opinion, that he fell into during the Tea Party, or maybe a little sooner. The point is, go ahead and count on Subaru failing this loop. So the group meeting ends and everybody leaves, except for in the web novel. Subaru stays to talk to Amelia about Puck. Puck is old as fuck. So there's a chance that he knows something about the witches and the trial and all of that stuff. Back during the first Tea Party, Echidna actually says that she knows Puck. So in this version, it makes sense for Subaru to want to talk to him. And of course, Puck isn't going to join in on this conversation. In fact, Subaru even realizes that at no point has Puck tried to help her in the last few loops, I mean. She's been eaten by the rabbit, she was possessed or consumed by envy, and at no point does it look like Puck has even tried to help. So fuck him. On his way out, he stops and talks to Ram. And in the novels, this happens inside the building. Probably the same room that they had their group meeting in. In the anime, it happens outside, which really doesn't make any sense considering she is also staying in that building, so there's no real reason for her to leave. I have no idea what they were doing there. Ram, there's something that I want to talk to you about. Pervert. You're jumping to conclusions and making me sound bad. For one thing, I've never looked at you that way. Had to include that in for any Subaru and Ram shippers. That ship has sailed. There's no way I'm using that correct. I'm old. What do the kids say nowadays? Look, I'm just trying to say that they're not getting together. In the novel, she even points out that he seems to be looking through her or seeing someone else whenever he looks at her. And it's a deep cut for Subaru. He's only told her once, and she almost immediately wanted to leave Rem to die at the mansion. So Subaru's feeling a bit weird about the whole situation. And the anime hints at this, but it's just not as clear as the novels. What is it you want to ask of me? It's about Garfield. I'm about to do something behind his back, and there's a good chance he'll try to interfere. So I want you to keep him here. I don't like that look in your eyes, Borosu. Very well then. 10 favors in return will do. This conversation is completely different in the web novel. He doesn't ask to distract Garfield. Instead, he tries to figure out how to get Garfield out of Sanctuary. And they both pretty much conclude that that's not happening. And Ram knows why, but she's not going to tell Subaru, at least not right now. He then brings up Roswaal's gospel, which turns this normal conversation with Ram into a hostile one real fucking quick. She starts to threaten him to try to figure out how he knows about that, and Subaru calls her bluff. Like, he just says, you won't, because it'll go against Roswaal's plan. I think it's the most bold, cocky that he has ever acted towards her. And she sees that she is not winning that argument, so she just ends the conversation there. Subaru leaves, but Garfield stops him and they go have a little chat. This conversation doesn't happen until the next morning in the other versions. At least I think it's the next morning. Either way, I'm going to wait until we get to that section before I go into details on what this conversation was about. So again, in the web novel, they have their group meeting, and then Subaru has a one-on-one meeting with Amelia, and then Ram, and then Garfield. And then the next events happen in every version. In the last loop, when Subaru was stuck in the shadow, his consciousness was mixed with other people's, and he saw bits and pieces of memories from people in the sanctuary. I'm not sure how much he actually saw or how much he remembers, but for now, he remembers a few memories from Garfield and maybe a few from the Ryuzu clones. And that is the location of a building. According to the light novel, this is the building that he was held captive in. And I would guess it's the same for the anime, but I'm not really sure about the web novel. The web novel makes it seem like it's a completely different place, but who knows. So he goes searching for the building and he hears a whistle coming from the building that Roswaal and Amelia are staying in. And this is most likely Ram trying to distract Garfield. I would imagine the anime has something happened that's similar, but it's just not shown. Once Subaru finds the building and goes inside, he finds a keyhole, or kind of. He knows from the memories that he needs to use the crystal, so once he does, a secret door opens. Inside, he finds a huge crystallized Ryuzu. And in the light novel, she is wearing like a short dress, but for some reason the anime just decided to make her naked. Don't ask me why. Before we continue, we need to go over some web novel stuff. So in the last loop, there were no memory sharing in the shadows in this version. So Subaru is relying on his own memories to find this place. Two memories specifically. One was back before the loops, when he was trying to get into the graveyard. Specifically, when he was with Otto and they were trying to test his qualifications. Garfield came out of the woods and warned them not to be there. The direction that he came from is a clue. He knew there was a building out here somewhere because Beatrice had teleported him a few loops ago, and it was a room with a giant chasm in the middle. This room, actually, but instead of a giant crystal in the middle, there was a giant hole. A hint for the future. So Subaru knows about where the building is, but he uses the direction that Garfield came from to help get his bearings. And he just starts walking and finds the building. Because there's no tiny crystal in this version, he just opens a door. It's literally just a normal door. He just opens it, and there's a giant ass crystallized Ryuzu. I never expected you to discover this only half a day after arriving here, young Sue. Yeah, in case you needed a reminder, in the anime and the light novel, they just got there, took the trial, and now he has found one of the biggest secrets in Sanctuary. So he is moving fast in everyone else's eyes. It was the memory of someone who was swallowed up by the Witch of Envy, someone who knew of this place. Is he allowed to say this? I mean, it's not directly related to Return by Death, but that's gotta be crossing a line somewhere, right? This girl is one of the guards assigned to this place. One of Sanctuary's eyes. Nothing more. Confirmation on what Garfield was talking about a few loops ago when he found them after Subaru escaped. So Subaru got out and one of the Ryuzus saw it and reported it to Garfield. There's something I want to ask you. After that, I'd like to request your help, if possible. I shall not ignore your request, young Sue. Apostle of Greed. That is what has been written in the contract that binds us. The copies of Ryuzu Mayor. Apostle of Greed is a new title for Subaru, and that'll be explained here in a sec, along with yet another contract. So, Ryuzu Mayor is the name of the original person. And in the web novels, they're no different names. They all go by Ryuzu Mayor. The events happen very different in the web novel. So Subaru finds the big crystal. He realizes there's probably a secret room somewhere. Remember, he had to climb through a vent to get out whenever he was teleported to this room before because of the giant hole. So he studies the wall a little bit, and when he turns around, there's not two Ryuzus, there's just one. And it's the one that can't talk. So she mostly ignores him, and she goes to open up a hidden storage area underneath the crystal. And this is lined with magic circles and mana crystals. She replaces one of the mana crystals, and the giant crystal starts to glow a little brighter. And it has a real feel of magic mixed with science, is how the web novel puts it. The light novel also says that the room has that feeling, but because it doesn't have the scene with Ryuzu and they're doing work with the crystals, it doesn't really come off that convincing. And honestly, the anime doesn't really do a great job conveying that feeling either. There is a very strong smell in the web novel, and actually, it's in different versions at different times, and I've mentioned it a few times and not mentioned it in others. I probably haven't mentioned it near as much as I should now that I think about it, but it's just a very strong chemical smell, and that kind of feeds back into the whole science and magic feeling of the place. So the girl gets finished with her work and she goes to leave, but Subaru stops her. He tries to ask her questions and stuff, but she's not gonna say anything. So he turns and touches the giant crystal, which sends a shooting pain down his arm. We'll get an explanation on what happened there later on. So after he recovers, the Ryuzu that's there bows to him and then leads him out of the building. And that is when the Ryuzu Bilma joins in and they move to a different location to have their conversation. They move to the house that Ryuzu is staying in while Roswell uses her house. And I want to point out these little shields on the wall because they will be important for later. If you remember a few loops back ago in the web novel, Subaru had a conversation in this house, and these shields were pointed out then. The light novel does talk about them at the end of this conversation, but the anime, it just doesn't bring it up until later. She seems awfully attached to me. This particular clone likes Subaru, and I can't really remember if that's important later, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw it in here now, just in case. In the novels, Subaru gives her the nickname Pico, and after that, they all talk about Sanctuary and what Echidna did there. What was she experimenting on? Can you not see it right in front of you? Was there not a girl who looked just like me trapped within the magic crystal? That was the first, Ryuzu Mayor. All the other Ryuzus, including myself, are copies of her. I'm just gonna throw her in down here, I guess. She is important for the backstory, but for the current events, she's kind of stuck. So for the purpose of this list here, I'm just gonna put her down at the bottom. Does knowing that I'm an imitation change how you see me? I don't know. I'd like to say that it doesn't. I would, but how kind you are, young Sue. Our replica bodies are built upon cores of artificial ode that has been produced by magic. These cores are wrapped in mana and given physical form, resulting in these bodies. They're just fake souls with mana bodies. Hence why they exploded whenever they were attacking Envy. Wait, you're talking about literally creating life. Why would she do something like that? In the novels, Subaru takes a guess that Ryuzu Mayor was someone important to Echidna, and these experiments were an attempt to try to bring her back. And Ryuzu Bilma says, "It seems you have an over-idealized view of the witch." And I mean, he kinda does. To be fair, Echidna has been nothing but helpful to him, so it kind of makes sense that he would see her in a positive light, and that is kind of clouding his judgment. To add something to those bodies, obviously. specifically to add personalities, memories, and knowledge. In other words, a soul. She filled Ryuzu Meire's body with her own being, and every time the body perished, she would make a new vessel to inherit its soul, which would make her basically immortal. Echidna was searching for immortality. At least that's the way that it looks. I'm not fully convinced, but that's a discussion for much later. But it's really not that surprising, or it wouldn't be that surprising coming from a witch. And goddamn, she has got to be frustrated looking at Envy, who's basically immortal. Subaru thinks that maybe Echidna likes him so much because of his return by death. That basically makes him immortal in a weird way. I mean, it is similar to what she was trying to do. Basically, as one body dies, another would take its place with the memories carried over. In the novels, Subaru figures out that the plan was to fill the vessels up with a soul before Ryuzu has a chance to say it. And it's another example of Subaru being smarter in the novels. So was Echidna's experiment a success? No, Echidna's soul was not inherited. The witch's plan only came to pass in an imperfect form. Ryuzu Meire was an insufficient vessel to house the Witch of Greed. The novels explain that it's like pouring water into a cup, but Echidna was too much for a Ryuzu vessel, and some of Echidna's soul spilled out. So some of Echidna's soul was put into the failed version, but not enough to actually call her a Echidna clone. This is Omega, right? She hasn't shown up in the main story, at least in the anime, yet. So if you don't know who I'm talking about, don't worry. It's not important. That's a discussion for another time. But I think this is a reference to her. So I'm pointing it out now for the people who do know. Supposedly, the failed copy was disposed of, but that's just incorrect. I wouldn't call it a lie. I mean, I don't think Ryuzu can lie to Subaru right now. So I would just say that it's wrong. At least I'm 90, 80% sure. We'll say 85% sure. After the witch's death, this facility remains, and more copies continue to be produced. Since our bodies are made of mana, our saving grace is that we require no resources to survive. Looks like you're drinking tea, though. This is merely a hobby of mine, an individual quirk that I acquired over my long life. I'm not sure on the exact timeline. She says that she is one of the first 4, and in the web novel, she actually says that she is the 3rd. So I'm guessing this is before Echidna died. Like, the first failure was made, and by that point, the giant crystal was already in place. So 4 more were made, maybe around the same time. And then Echidna died, and the rest were made after that. But again, that's just a guess. I have no idea if that's correct or not. We learn in the light novel that it's the big crystal itself that's making the clones. So the first couple were made to take care of Sanctuary, and now it just keeps making more, even though there's really no reason to. In the web novel, we learn that the clones can communicate telepathically. And I would guess that's the same for every version. It would kind of explain why most of them don't talk. I mean, if they're not getting any practice, they're not going to learn. So this is going to be a bit spoilery, but I feel like it's pretty obvious at this point. So the web novel explains that the first 4 that were made are the ones that are smart. I can't think of a good word to describe them. They're the ones with personalities. They take turns running Sanctuary, basically 1 day on, 3 days off. Their bodies are made of mana, so too much physical exertion causes them to disappear. So they do a little bit of shift work in order to prevent that. Also in the web novel, we learned that the original Ryuzu agreed to be a crystal clone farm with the condition that Sanctuary continue. Basically, she didn't want anything to happen to the place, so she volunteered her life for the sake of the Sanctuary. And we may or may not learn more about that later. What did you mean by Apostle of Greed earlier? Put simply, it refers to the one who has the right to command us copies of Ryuzu Meire. Did the witch not bestow upon you a symbol of her apostlehood in the graveyard? A part of her body, such as a strain of hair or a fingernail? Wait, the kidney tea. There you go. There was an actual reason behind her putting her body fluids in the tea. It wasn't a fetish thing. It wasn't just a fetish thing. For some reason, the web novel separates out being an apostle of greed and having control over the clones. Subaru was an apostle after the first Tea Party, but he didn't have control over the clones until he touched the crystal, which is why he felt pain in his arm. That was basically the authority being passed on to him. Subaru realizes that if being an apostle of greed lets you control the clones, then Garfield is also an apostle, which means that he has been inside the graveyard and most likely has taken the trial himself. And Ryuzu confirms that that is true. Subaru wants all of this kept secret from Garfield, and Ryuzu agrees, but she really doesn't have a choice in the matter. Young Gar certainly would have something to say if he knew a relative of his was meeting with her lover. That was incredibly mean. Plus, it would make me incredibly sinful. But, yeah, I guess we're okay then. I'll probably need your help in the future. Do as you please. I cannot defy you. Should you need a Garfield ward or a hug pillow? Could you stop making it sound like I'm some guy who's eternally frustrated? She is 100% just fucking with them. Neither of them are taking these comments serious. By the way, you said the original surname was Mayer, but yours is Bilma, right? To go by the name of Ryuzu is the duty that has been instilled in me. Therefore, we must express our individuality in other ways, such as hobbies, preferences, and names. Say, young Su, if you don't mind, would you ask me the same question again after tomorrow? There's 4 of them with personalities. This has already been explained in the web novel. The other versions are just leaving it a secret for now, but it's why I left room at the top here. Speaking of the web novel, Subaru brings up one more question that's not in the other versions. That is, why did Beatrice teleport him to that room a few loops ago? And it's not really necessary for him to bring this up, but I do think that this questioning kind of is a better transition to what he's going to be doing here soon. Also in the web novel, Ryuzu just straight up disappears, like out of thin air, and another one takes her place. It's kind of like a spirit disappearing, but they're not spirits. I'm pretty sure they're not. So it's really weird when this happens, and my guess is that's why it was removed for the light novel and the anime. On the walk back, Subaru gets jump scared by Amelia. Okay, well, maybe not exactly. He's just lost in thought, and when she calls out to him, it surprises him. Anyway, what are you doing walking around out here so late at night? If Puck were here, he'd tell you that it's bad for your skin. I just haven't been able to sleep since then, so I went for a walk to feel the night breeze for a bit. Because you're worried about the trial? Maybe, but I'm not entirely sure of what it is myself. I was just walking around hoping to figure it out. I guess I really wish Puck was here. I guess no matter where I go, I'll always be a pitch hitter. I mean, he brought up Puck himself. I feel like he set himself up for that. And this is kind of the same conversation that he had earlier in the web novel. Not exactly, because he was trying to talk to Puck in that version, but it's similar enough. You're amazing, Amelia. No one would blame you for wanting to run away from this, but you face it head on without backing down. I respect that. I don't know how much help I can be to you, but I'll say what I feel out loud. You're going to be fine, Amelia. I know you'll get it done. I'm on your side. Yeah, thank you. Really, you've given me so much courage. I have no idea why the anime made Subaru look so creepy in this scene. I mean, it's not the feeling that I got when I was reading the light novel. And I get it, he's kind of in a weird mental state right now where he's basically thinking that this is going to be a failed loop before anything has even happened. And that can kind of play into it, so I understand it from that perspective. I just don't think he's supposed to look like a psychopath right now. So they part ways, and Subaru goes to the church where all the villagers are staying. According to the light novel, The men are staying in the big open area while the women stay in the rooms. Natsuki, you're back? You were gone for so long, I was worried about you. I thought you'd wandered off into the forest and gotten lost. A fair concern considering he was kidnapped a few loops ago. But Otto's not going to remember that. And this conversation with Otto doesn't happen in the web novel. What are you, an overprotective mother? At least let me be the father. Natsuki, I know you've had a hard time lately, but you can always talk to me if it'll help. This guy says the weirdest things in his sleep. Gross. Is that what you want to say to someone who's worried about you? Otto quickly covers his mouth, but none of the sleeping men in the room react to him raising his voice. Just be quiet and go to sleep. If your little outburst gets the villagers riled up, we're all in for it. I didn't mean that as a joke. I know. That's exactly why I can't tell you. Subaru has seen firsthand how far Otto will go to help him. And even though he thinks this is a failed loop, he still doesn't want to sacrifice anybody. So he's trying to leave everyone out of it. They fall asleep pretty soon after that, and I'm going to end the video here. Next time, we'll see Subaru try to save people, and it will definitely work out. See ya.